A 32-year-old Iraqi woman was beaten to death with a tire iron in El Cajon, California, which is near San Diego. It is being investigated as a possible hate crime. Apparently, there was a note found right next to her that said, quote, "Go back to your country, you terrorist." And, you know, she has a 17-year-old daughter who is completely torn apart by this. She says that they had actually found a note prior to this incident that said something similar, but they didn't report it to the authorities because they didn't really believe that they would take it that, you know, seriously. But this is a really horrible crime. And what's interesting about this is, look, it's received relatively little media attention.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know if they're trying to give the police time to, you know, chase down the leads and get the investigation going, and the cops say that it might be a hate crime. Now, to me, the only question is whether the note is real or not. You know, it's possible that somebody could have done this for personal reasons and then put a note on it to distract people, etc., right? But I'm making stuff up there. There's no indication that that's the case. I'm just saying as a possibility that the cops might look into. But if the note is authentic and it means somebody actually did this for this reason, well, then it's not a question at all. It's obviously a hate crime. It's in fact the most obvious hate crime I've ever seen. And it's fascinating, you know, what gets attention in the press and what doesn't. Not to say that the press hasn't covered it all. Associated Press has a story about it, etc. But, I mean, if it was racial in this country, and it would have gotten a lot of press, like if they had beaten someone with a tire iron and then wrote a note, "Go back to Africa," right? And that would justifiably get a ton of attention, including us, right? But it seems that there is something about attacks against Muslims where we almost see it as like, well, of course, you know, somebody attacked a Muslim because people in this country hate Muslims.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a considerable amount of fear-mongering in the mainstream media when it comes to Muslims. And you have the NYPD spying on innocent Muslim students all the time. And yeah, they received a little bit of criticism for it, but there is also a huge chunk of the country that will justify it, you know? And after the attacks of 9/11, we've seen several hate crimes against Muslims, taxi drivers in New York City. So is it possible that this was really a hate crime? I definitely think it is, and I don't really see how someone would leave, or that note would have been planted by someone else. I don't know. I think that that's a legitimate note.
Right. So we'll see how the police react to it. Now, part of the reason the Trayvon Martin story is so outrageous is because the cops refused to arrest the guy we know did it, right? And then it's not to say that he should be convicted, although there's a very strong argument for that, but we're saying for at least, can you arrest the guy? We know who it is. In this case, we don't know who it is yet.
Right.
So, and there are heinous crimes across the country, and I think the police reaction is very important, of course, as a story goes. Now, this is a particularly egregious case, to say the least, and you know, the extra irony here, of course, here is that Fatima Al Himidi family had escaped Iraq to come here because Saddam Hussein was persecuting their family because they're Shia. Mm-hmm. And in fact, both her husband and her brothers worked with the U.S. military, and they would help the U.S. Army as cultural advisors to train soldiers who were going to the Middle East. Mm-hmm. So they're helping our soldiers. They're American citizens. They ran away from Saddam Hussein, who we went to go capture and kill. And then some idiot, it appears, some incredibly bigoted, criminal goes and does this vicious thing to her. And I mean, think about that. A 32-year-old mother of 5, when her kids apparently had just gone to school, her husband had dropped them off. And this guy breaks in, and it was her 17-year-old daughter discovered her in their living room and beats her skull in with a tire iron.
I know.
It's so gruesome. I can't imagine any human being can do that, but obviously they did. So, look, I think it's instructive to give you a sense of how some of the Islamophobia that is being, harnessed in this country by some forces and by a propaganda campaign that we've showed you before. There's even, a documentary on it by Vanguard on current television. And it leads to events. It's not, isn't in a vacuum. When you tell everybody, oh, go after all the Muslims, sometimes they take you at your word and they go after a poor mother of 5 and beat her with a tire iron. So it's a horrible climate that unfortunately has been created in this country and is taken as far too commonplace.